Hey guys, Savage Red Recovery here, back for another one. So the reason that I'm making this video is I'm going to tell the story of what it was like a few months prior to me getting sober and what it exactly was that made me decide to get sober and how I've changed and why I've changed since that time till now. But before we get into that, if you do me a favor, could you pelvis thrust the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the like button, share this. If there's someone that you know that is having a substance abuse issue or have a problem with any sort of addiction type problem, gambling, shopping, whatever it may be, a destructive behavior that's addictive, please share this with them or email me and have them email me. But all right, so we're going to get into the video. So in 2014, I had been arrested, and I believe it was October or August, or it was October or August, I believe, if I remember correctly. And I ended up going to probation, and I was already on probation for another case, and I went to see my PO, and I was sitting there, and I knew something was weird because he was like typing on his computer, and he kept telling me, yeah, you know, the computer's having problems, blah blah blah, and he kept typing and typing and typing, and he, like, I could tell he was just stalling for time. A bunch of cops stormed in, like 10 sheriffs stormed in. I let them arrest me. They took me to jail. I ended up going to county jail, and then I had been doing meth like that whole, like the whole month prior to me going to see my PO at this time. And I think at this point, like, this was the start of me starting to get worn down by my circumstance. This might have been in June or July. Like, it was sometime, it was like summerish, it was hot. But I had just gone in, like, I didn't study for my tests, so I was gonna, if he piss tested me, I was gonna fail. I ended up telling him, like, listen, man, like, I'm not, it's not working out for me. And he ended up arresting me. I had a secret indictment for tampering with evidence for another case that happened in June, so this had to be in like August or something. So they took me to jail. I was in jail for like 1 or 2 days. I don't even remember what it was, because I was going in front of my judge for bond, and it was a substitute judge, which is important. So the prosecutor had already talked to the previous judge, and the prosecutor wanted me to get like a $20,000 bond or something. And the substitute judge, he was telling me that he was going to give me a bond. And I told him, I was like, well, listen, I just got, like, even though I was defeated when I went in to see my PO, when I was in a cell, my addict brain started working. So, like, by the time I went in front of this judge, I was literally trying to figure a way how I could get myself out of jail. So I came up with this idea because I had just gotten out of treatment, and yeah, so I had just gotten out of treatment in June. So it had only been a couple months since I had been out, and I lied to the substitute judge because he didn't really know what was going on. He was just sitting in for the day, that I was sober. And I was like, listen, I just got out of treatment, like, I'm trying to get my life together, blase blase. Well, he goes, okay, well, if you can pass a piss test, I'll give you a PR bond. So they took me back to holding, and while I was in holding, I was just chugging water, slamming water. Now, mind you, I hadn't been eating or drinking water or doing anything that's good for your kidneys or any sort of getting toxins out of your system prior to me going to jail. And I went up there on, like, I think a Wednesday, and it was like Friday morning or something. So I only had like a day or two before I seen this substitute judge. So I ended up drinking the water. I passed the test. I got out of jail. I went back on the run. Well, at this time, I had a ticket on my head for a crime that I had committed with some other organized criminals, and I was staying in and out of hotel rooms, and the paranoia of like the pressures of being on the run, because I got put on bond for the tampering with evidence case. So like I had to report to bond and probation. I had to do 2 drug tests, but I never ended up making it to them. And so the pressures of probation, the pressures of living in a motel room, the pressures of addiction, the pressures of having a ticket on my head, all these things started to weigh on me. And on top of it, when you do meth, if you're up for long periods of time, like as soon as you start doing meth, you start getting paranoid, and after 3 days you start hallucinating. So like it got to the point where my system couldn't. I was doing so much meth and staying up for so long, and I've been doing so much drugs for so many years in my life, my nervous system could not take it anymore. So it was getting to the point where I had anxiety to where I couldn't leave the motel. Like I couldn't go anywhere. Like I wouldn't go to the store. Like I would just sit in the motel and just get ripped. So like I was saying, I'm in and out of the motels, going from place to place, moving, so I'm not being followed. Well, I get a phone call in December of 2014. It was the 21st, that my dad was in the hospital and he wasn't doing well, and I needed to make it to him. So the fact of that is in like 2012, I saved my dad's life. He had a heart attack and I drove him to the hospital. But prior to that, I didn't start talking to my dad from the time I was like 13 or 16 or something until I was like 20 or 19 or something. It was something like that. And the last 3 years of his life, I had really been trying to make a relationship with my father, because like I'm a lot like my dad. But as I was getting older, there was just something that I knew that I needed to. There was something that I had to do with my father. There was some fence I had to try to mend, or I had to at least try to do my end of it. Like I didn't really know that at that time, but I could see that in my actions. So the last 3 years, he'd been in and out of the hospital because he was a drug addict himself, and he was on painkillers because he had a bunch of surgeries, and you know, he wasn't in good health. His organs were failing. But every time he went to the hospital, my family wouldn't tell me that he was in the hospital because he was afraid that I was going to kill him. And now I'm not saying that to brag. I'm not saying that because I'm a tough guy. I'm saying that because literally my dad told that to my sister, and they would keep me from letting me know about what was going on with my father. So there was pretty much like 3 years of me not talking to my dad, like very sporadically, to, hey, your dad's not doing well, you need to come up here. And that was on a Friday. It was a Saturday. I was supposed to go see him in Summa Hospital in Akron. And I had to re-up. I had to get some stuff. I had to make sure that I felt right before I went up there. And I ended up taking all day. I didn't get up there till like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I was supposed to be there at like 9 in the morning. And when I went in there, I was high. And I went in there. He was on life support. He wasn't. He was just a shell of a person. And I said some stuff to him, and I apologized, and I tried to make my peace to him. And I walked out to get some air. And my girlfriend at the time was with me, and we were gonna walk back in there so I could say my last words, and then I could leave. Well, my uncle Jerry said that my dad didn't want my girlfriend there, that he didn't like her. So me and my uncle got into an argument, and I cursed out my family, and I left, and I never said anything to my dad. I let my pride and my ego get in the way of saying what I needed to say to my father. So we leave. I'm back in a motel, and that's like December 22nd, so it's right before Christmas. And like during this time, like I had to, like I was still moving back and forth, like moving around, not staying in the same place, staying with friends, staying in motels, just doing whatever I could do to not be in the same place. And I was also like, my addiction was starting to collapse. Like I couldn't function as a dealer. I wasn't able to leave. Like I wasn't able to really go out and do anything to make money. Like things were just coming to a head. And so as that's going on, we get to like January 1st. We're on the way to like where my dad's funeral is, and we probably weren't gonna make it there on time, to be honest, because I was a drug addict at a horrible time. But we're in Wyndham, and one of the cops pulls up on us, and he pulls me out the car, knocks a cigarette out of my mouth, and arrests me, and tells me like, you're not gonna be able to see your father today, because that was the day of my dad's funeral. And I went to jail. I was in jail for like 2-3 days, something like that. Like I don't even remember. I'm not even sure why I was in jail for this. Like I don't know if it was a failure to appear, or if it was me getting it. Like if they charged me with the, like I don't even remember. Like it's a haze. But I ended up getting out. Like I got arrested on like a Friday, or I got arrested on like Saturday and got out Monday morning or something. And during that time, like my girlfriend, she was also strung out, so she was doing drug addict things with me, and like she didn't respect me that much, because when she met me, I was supplying her and I was a drug dealer. But as things went forward, like I started having problems with me being even a person. So like we had a very toxic relationship, and we were toxic to each other. And like there was a time that like there's multiple times that she just left me in Cleveland. Like I was around that time I was working. There was some time during that period that I was working at Dante's. It's a great restaurant up in Cleveland, over in Tremont, if anyone's familiar. And like there were times that she would just, I'd get off work at 1-2 in the morning, and she would leave me in Cleveland, so I would go kick in a door, like an abandoned house in Tremont, and I'd sleep in the house till the next day to go back to work. Or like there was a time that I had to like so anyways, as things progressed, like on Christmas, she left me at McDonald's in the rain on Christmas Eve. And like I was just stuck out in Ravenna, like just stuck in the rain. Like my family didn't talk to me because of how toxic I was. Like pretty much most of my bridges, I was just a toxic person to be around. I was very angry, and I would be violent. Like not necessarily to everybody, not like I was a toxic person. I was a waste of space, to be honest. So as things go on, we're going back and forth from Cleveland to Kent to Ravenna to Cleveland to Ravenna, and we're staying in Wyndham. Well, like I was staying in Wyndham, like right down the street from where I was born, and weird, like it was hectic. Like nothing was constant. It was a lot of waiting around and getting high and stealing and selling, and it was bad. But I can distinctly remember in 2015, in February, on the Super Bowl, I slept in a car in Cleveland on 117th and Craven. No, it wasn't 117th and Craven. It was 105th off of Miles. I slept in a car with no heat because I didn't have the keys to the car, and I didn't have a coat. I didn't have shit. Like I literally didn't have anything. And I slept in a car all night waiting for my girl to get off work. And it just was, it just sad and miserable. At that time, like in 2014, I had also moved to Cleveland, was staying in the Garden Valley Projects for a while. So like there was nothing that was pleasurable about this. it was just like I had a ticket on my head. I was like a not even a great example of a human being. I was less than. Well, on February 20th, we were in Wyndham, and we were staying with a friend of ours and his wife and their kids, and we let them borrow our car, and they ran from the police in our car, and they went and dropped the car off like in another county, or not another county, like three cities away. And they came back in another car to pick us up. When they came back to pick us up, they knew who ran away from them in our car. So they pulled us over and they arrested him immediately. They made him put his arms through the window. They handcuffed him through the window and they pulled him out. They pulled us out the car and they searched us, and we didn't have anything on us, and they made us walk. So we start hitchhiking, like we start walking from Wyndham to Ravenna, which, if anyone knows, you have to go around the Arsenal. So it's like a 20-minute drive. It would have taken us hours to walk to Ravenna. So someone that I knew from like plowing their driveway or doing something, they gave us a ride to Ravenna, and then we got picked up and taken to our car, and we went out to Cleveland and we copped. And then her friend, who didn't like me. He didn't like me the whole time that we dated, because it used to be her ex-boyfriend, but they're best friends or something. It's a messed up situation. I was still blue pill at that time. He actually let me sleep on his couch until I could get into treatment on Monday, and I ended up going to treatment on the 23rd of February of 2015, and then that was the start of my journey. And it's crazy because I was so dope sick from being on dope that I was dope sick for a month. And like my second day or third day of being there, I was working at a fish fry for the Catholic Church of Holy Name during Lent, and then I was still dope sick, but I had to help out. And like as time went on, I started to feel better. I started to put weight on. When I went into the Absolute House, I weighed 130 pounds, and I'm 6'2", and like I look like Skeletor. Like I was just bones, and I shouldn't be ever 130 pounds ever. So as time went on, like I started putting weight on. I started helping the guys in the house. But my first month, I was angry because I was like, this is how messed up my thinking is. Like, so I don't have my GED because I always said to myself, I'm not going to get my GED until I go to prison, and then I'll get my GED while I'm in prison because I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do it on the street. So when I found out that I was going to a halfway house, on the way up there, I was pissed off that I was going to be going to a halfway house and not going to prison first. Like, I was mad that I wasn't going to go to prison and then go to the halfway house, that I was cutting out the prison in this whole thing. So I was also, like, when I went to the Absolute House, I was told, like, to be honest, like, if you lie, and if you keep negative traits and you lie about stuff, then you're not changing, and you'll more likely go back out. So I decided that I was going to give it everything I had. So my first day in group, which was like my third or fourth day, they asked me like where I was from, how many brothers and sisters I had, like what my family was like, and I divulged everything. Like I just was honest. And I got a lot of heat from that because a lot of people thought, because I wasn't from Cleveland, that like I was just a suburbs kid that was out here trying to be hard in a halfway house or some shit. So people didn't like me. Like, people didn't like me at all. I ended up confessing in that group that I was molested as a child, and so like the people that didn't like me used that as a way to like try to get me to fight them, because a lot of these dudes are coming from prison or coming from the street, and they've got a chip on their shoulder, so they make they pick a target and they just try to make that person's life miserable. And it just so happens I rub people the wrong way. So when I went there, I easily could have beat these dudes' asses, or I could have fought. Like maybe I wouldn't have won. Maybe I would have lost. In my head, I'd like to think that I would have won. But the fact of it is I was there to get sober. I wasn't there to do street beef or act like this was jail. So like the people that picked on me a lot and tried to antagonize me, like they made my 6.5 months there miserable. And like long story short, it was hard. And then like as my mindset changed, like I literally was on the run, and I ended up telling my probation officer where I was at, and then they wanted to revoke my probation and my bond, and then I ended up getting sentenced to another felony while I was already on probation for a case. So then I thought that maybe I was going to go to prison because I've already caught a felony and I'm on probation for that felony, and now I got arrested for another felony. Like I got arrested for a felony 4. I pled out to a felony 5, and I said, "Fuck your felony, give me a felony 3." Like I was just stupid and reckless, and like that was my mindset. And like to be honest with you, I should have went to prison. Like I should have. But there were like on March 23rd, which is my birthday, there was a guy that gave a lead that talked about how he was looking at life in prison with the feds, and that he didn't end up going to prison because he had done the right things in life and got sober and started changing who he was, and like the universe opened up for him and he didn't have to go to prison, and that's how he was able to tell us the story. Well, that is when my whole demeanor changed. The first month I was just on some bullshit. Well, as this was going on, I could start to see God working in my life and start to see that even though bad things happen, that's not a reason to get high and not the reason to go back to what I know. And that is what really changed my life. And what really changed my life a lot was during that time, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was because not only was I a criminal and I dropped out of school, and like I didn't have a relationship with my dad, so like I only had what a man was through my stepdad. And I'm not saying that my stepdad's a bad man, but like me and him butted heads just like me and my dad. And at that time, I thought it was a me and him thing and not just so much a me thing. And I did a lot of self-searching. But on February 28th is my dad's birthday, and on that day is when I met my sponsor. And my sponsor is still my sponsor today. I don't call him that often, and like we don't talk like that. But he was a father figure that I needed in that time period. And then as time went on, I started doing the right things. I got kicked out of the Absolute House like 6.5 months sober with $40, and I went and slept on a couch and then ended up moving into a sober house and renting a room. But during that time, I couldn't drive. I caught the bus. I'd ride the bus all the way to work, walk 1.5 miles to the shop, work all day, had a book bag full of tools because I was an electrician. I get dropped off, catch the bus back, go to IOP, go to meetings. Like I went to 7 to 10 meetings every week for 2 years. At 6.5 months sober, I was sponsoring guys. At 6 months sober, I was sponsoring guys. At like 7 or 8 months, I was running a sober house, trying to help others. And all these things is what, like, things being so, like, getting sober is already hard, but like I had more adversity than most people did, and I think that's really what built my sobriety the best. And like I had my first kid at 5. I had my first kid literally 5 days after I turned 2 years sober, and my sponsor was there. My father wasn't able to be there, but my sponsor was able to be there. And like I met my sponsor on the day of my dad's birthday, and my son is born on my dad's birthday. So I had my, like, I had kind of had a piece of my dad. I have a piece of my dad every day with my son, and I kind of had like a good proxy of my dad with my sponsor. And now I just, you know, I have kids to worry about, so like I don't do dumb stuff because I know that what dumb stuff's going to end up happening to me. But those are the reasons why I got sober, because at the place that I was at, the fear of dying from a ticket on my head, or the fear of, like, I was homeless. I'm not even going to say fear of being homeless, but the fear of just not, like, just being worse than it was. Like, I couldn't imagine that getting sober would be any worse than what it was, and that is the pain. Like, my dad dying was like me being beat down with my probation officer was the first step. My dad dying was a wake-up call. Like, I got sober 5 days before my dad's birthday because I honestly felt like I needed to get sober for my dad, because my dad didn't want this for me. And yeah, like that's really what it came down to, is like the pain was just so great. And I also have three brothers that died. One was 26, one was 27, one was 28, and I was having night terrors. I still have night terrors sober because of the street life that I lived and the stuff that I've done and seen. I still wake up having terrors from time to time. Like, I have dreams that someone's trying to kill me constantly. Like, I constantly get tortured in dreams all the time. So prior to that, on drugs and on the run and all these things, I'm having these dreams, and I was afraid that I was going to either die at 25 or I was going to die at 29, and I was 25 at the time. So all these things mixed together ended up pushing me to not be afraid to get sober. And during the time of me being in a halfway house, like, I got sentenced to another felony. I didn't go to prison. I got put on probation for 5 years and was told if I fuck up one time, they'll make a prison for me. And next week I go and get off of probation. So I've been on probation since 2013. So that'll be 7 years of probation, and it'll be the first time I've been a free man at all. Because since I've been 18, I've been arrested for weed or this or that, and I've been on probation pretty much every year of my life, minus 3 months here, 4 months here, 2 months there. But I really just wanted to get that out there, because I haven't really gone too in depth with my story of what decided to make me get sober. But I hope that anyone that out there that has a family member that has drug addiction, or someone that's gone through drug addiction, that this helped them. The whole reason to this to this video is just to be able to help someone else that needs it, or to confirm to someone that is already sober, that's struggling, to stick it out, because life does get better. And I didn't believe that when I was getting sober, because I saw these people that had suits on and had money and jobs, and I couldn't relate to them. But at the end of the day, life does get better. It does get hard, but you just have to stick it through. And I appreciate everyone for their support, and I appreciate everyone for helping me with this channel as much as you guys have. Like I was saying in the beginning, share this to anyone that needs a message about getting sober. And I appreciate it. If you guys aren't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the like button. Tell me what you think in the comments. You guys can always email me at savageredrecovery@gmail.com. Until next time, guys, peace.